Well, here I am. Drove all the way out here to the state game lands. Just go out and put out a couple of cameras. And obviously it's raining. And that's only the first of two disappointments here. If you look, the gate is closed. So I can't even drive out to where I would normally park. And this adds about a mile to my walk. So that's the end of that. I am instead going to just do a video from home. Hello and welcome to another Death by Bungie Crossbow Appreciation Month video. In this video, we're not going to be talking about the amazing Burt Coyote Luminoc here, or the tool that I use to change the batteries in a Burris Oracle X, or the Luminoc puller, or these Black Eagle inserts that were the subject of another video, along with this big old rod that we use to install them. All great stuff. In this video, we're going to be talking about that time of year when you get the Bass Pro Shops / Cabela's catalog in the mail. It's like Christmas time. It's like when I was a kid and I would get the Sears catalog. Remember those? Some of you guys probably don't remember those, but you get that catalog every year, and it's so great because you go through it and look at all the toys and all that good stuff. It's kind of the same thing now, but now we've got this catalog, and we're going to take a look at it and see what kind of crossbow-related fun they have in this catalog. We got the Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's 2024 Hunting Master Catalog. Interesting, Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's one catalog. Back when I was a kid, it's really an odd thing. Cabela's, I guess, bought Bass Pro Shops, although they've got that up top. I don't know who Johnny Morris is. That's interesting. But Bass Pro Shops was always the nice color catalog when I was a kid, and Cabela's was the black and white little, I don't know, had more gear in Cabela's, but it wasn't fancy. It wasn't as much fun to look at. Does that kind of make sense? Now it's just one big catalog because it's one company, I guess. The way the world works. We'll look through this thing, see what we got for crossbow fun. Ooh, we got all kinds of goodies here. We got Rangers and four-wheelers. Get to the goodies. Get to the goodies. Don't need shoes. Already got shoes, right? All kinds of stuff. Ooh. Knives. All kinds of knives. Holy knives. They got all kinds of knives. Oh, bows. We're getting close. We're getting close. So here we have some compound bows. I got to admit to you, I don't know much about that stuff. They all look the same to me. You can buy one on this page. We'll start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. No bows here. And then these are not compound bows. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages of compound bows in this catalog. Now, for crossbows, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages. 10 pages of crossbows. Pretty cool. That shows you where we're at. If you had looked at this years and years ago, I'm betting you would have had very few pages of crossbows and lots of pages of bows, right? Now, you can see where we're going, right? And if we went back in time far enough, right, back to the 1960s, you would have almost no crossbows, maybe one page with a couple of crossbows. You would probably have one page with compound bows, but several pages, 3 or 4 pages probably, of long bows and recurve bows. So that's how times change. And it's one of the things I'm trying to point out here on Death by Bungie during this Crossbow Appreciation Month. We're looking at some pretty expensive gear here, aren't we? But that is progress. The world moves in this direction. Now, right now, you know, I'm not going to go out and buy this crossbow with the scope installed. I have these scopes. I love these scopes, and I drool over them every time I see them because they are so important to my crossbow hunting method. And I do believe that's the future of crossbow hunting, the Burris Oracle X, or a range-finding scope of that nature. I think it's very important. I think that these will become passé. These will become outdated, the speed range scopes. Just like the iron sights. You know, there's still a guy or two out there using iron sights or whatever, right? But it certainly is not common. It certainly is not the best. It certainly can't be argued that iron sights are superior to this. And I can tell you that down the road, we will all agree that this is superior to this. This is the future of crossbow hunting. It really is. Now, we're not there yet. Just like we're not there yet with us shooting this beautiful package here, the TRX 515 from TenPoint. What a crossbow, but it's $4,000, right? Going to be a few years a few years, several seasons before something like this is in my price range. But right now, I'm happy with the 400 feet per second range, because that's become commonplace. When I started hunting, that 400 feet per second range was this. It was out of range. It was out of reach for me, right? Now we're doing pretty good. So let's look at these real quick. We'll go through these crossbows and take a gander. This one we had a chance to see in person, didn't we? This was a crossbow that we shot at a recent gathering. It was the subject in another video. It was kind of the highlight of the day. It was one of the most exciting things that I was going to see that day. That doesn't mean I want one of these necessarily. I'd love to have one, but it doesn't mean that I want to hunt with it. It doesn't mean that it's ready for me, that it's ready for my crossbow hunting method at this time. This is the latest and greatest, isn't it? This is something that is $4,000. It's got the beautiful scope on it. It shoots 515 feet per second. It's rated at that. Draw weight, 300 pounds. A very interesting observation here too, because Excalibur has a draw weight, a lot of them, right, of 300 pounds. So we're dealing with a 300-pound draw weight on certain crossbows, but at the same time, this one is going 515, and the Excalibur's probably going, 300 to 400, somewhere in that speed range with the same draw weight. So technology is different, and that's something that's also very important to point out. TenPoint always has the dual limbs, right, and they have multiple cables. That's a different animal for me. There will come a time probably when I get into the 10-point variety, but right now that's a little bit beyond what I want to get into. You got to build up to this stuff, right? Looking at these ones though, now we got the Flatline 460. I did a video looking at this one a couple years ago, or a year ago when it came out. This is moving into that tried, true, and tested category, isn't it? 460 feet per second, just like this one here at 440. These crossbows are in a speed range that the world has been dealing with for a couple of years. The arrows, the nocks, the broadheads, the targets have sort of caught up with these crossbow speeds. So if I were to purchase off of this page, I'd probably be looking at one of these right now, although this is just a neat thing, and it would be neat to have one. But I notice here something that's another thing that we can talk about. Where's the 505? Huh? Where's the 505? TenPoint not offering the 505, just the 515, at least on this page, in this catalog through Bass Pro Shops. Turning the page, we're still on 10-point crossbows, and we got their other line, the Wicked Ridges. Their speeds, they have a good reputation for reaching those speeds, unlike a lot of the crossbows that I deal with. But they reach those speeds, and they do it with a 400 grain arrow, typically, or 410 on some of these. Getting iced coffee on my catalog, that's no good. But here, it doesn't say which one they're using, but I'm thinking they're using a 400 grain arrow here, okay, or 410 to get this speed. And I can tell you that there was some question about the model that we saw at that crossbow gathering that I went to. They had there's some question about them reaching those speeds there. That wasn't necessarily, that crossbow did not shoot over 500 feet per second. 485? Very fast. It was by far the fastest crossbow there, but it did not reach that, that speed. Here, again, this one's going 410 with a 200-pound draw weight. So how interesting is that? They can get a 200-pound draw weight to go 410 feet per second, very much similar to the Enforcer, right? The Enforcer shooting, I think 190 draw weight or something like that, 195-pound draw weight, but shooting 405 rated, but not with a 400 grain arrow. They got to, there's no real truth in advertising. There's no consistency amongst manufacturers when it comes to arrow weight that they use to get these speeds. And some of the manufacturers change the speed within their models, okay? So you do have to read into and do some research on these to really know what you're getting. You don't want to buy one that says it's 400 feet per second and then find out it's really not 400 feet per second with the arrow. It's nowhere near that with the arrow that you're going to use. None of them are going to shoot a 500-600 grain arrow at 500 feet per second. That's not where we're at yet, but we still have some interesting numbers. Still, the Wicked Ridge line, really like those. We've looked at them before. I really like what they offer in terms of specs and just some great stuff. But if you look at these 180-pound draw weight, 200-pound draw weight, 400 feet per second, 370 feet per second, we are in a category of crossbows here. This is where technology really has it down, right? It is down pat. When you look at what we're dealing with here, we're dealing with modern speeds, right? This is sort of the lower end of the modern era of speeds, but 410 right there in the mix, real good, solid, dependable, tried, true, and tested speeds. And these crossbows, for the money that you're spending on them, they're you know, there's cheaper ones out there that will perform similarly, but this is a high-end line that you can order from a big store catalog like this. And you've got new for 2024, this new model, but shooting this speed for that price, that's a nice crossbow, right? This is a package that can last you for years. It's a tried, true, and tested speed, and the manufacturers have these bits of technology really down pat at these speeds. So I really, really like this. This is where I would be shopping if I were looking for a new crossbow, which I'm not. But I'm always looking. I'm always looking at new stuff. Ravin crossbows. Now, we don't talk about Ravin crossbows nearly enough here on Death by Bungie. I realize that. Down the road, I'm probably going to get into the Ravin scheme of crossbows here, or at least get somebody around, shoot some Ravin crossbows, talk about Ravin crossbows. Jim from Backyard Broadheads, maybe I should do a video with you.
We were hunting with my new crossbow. It's a Ravin R29. I love this thing.
He really, really likes the Ravins, has been shooting those for a while, done some great videos. We did a shooting competition last year through the mail. We sent some stuff around last year or the year before. Some fun stuff. Fun stuff right there, right? You can check out his website. He is a friend of Bungie. He's got some really neat products, especially if you're into the Ravin crossbows. Check out his website. Really cool stuff. The thing about the Ravins for me is if you look, they have, like, you've really got to be careful with the arrows. They want you using their arrows. It's kind of like Apple. It's kind of like having an iPhone, right? You kind of have to use all their architecture. You can't go buying the Burt Coyotes and just, you know, throw those knocks in there or having fun with that stuff. I like the Burt Coyotes, and I really don't want to shoot something that doesn't use a Burt Coyote. So I would have to figure out a way. I'd have my own arrows. I would invest in a high-end zombie or something like that, right? And put a Burt Coyote in there that will be suitable for that Ravin crossbow if I were to go down that line. I really like this guy right here, the R29X. I have shot this. Genevieve and I went around. I actually did play around with this, considered buying one of these, but it was pretty loud. And now I'm not as picky about the loud because I'll be doing a video on this down the road, but crossbows are just loud. That's just how it is. But I did kind of like this. It was, the 29X is a silent cocker. You can cock it and it's not as loud cocking it. But I also am not a big fan of cocking crossbows. I'm still a rope cocker. I'm in the 400 feet per second range-ish kind of thing, and I'm able to rope cock my crossbow. So that to me is good enough. The R26X, again, we've got the X. I think that's the silent cocking system. If you get one that's an R26, it'll click when you cock, and it's actually kind of loud. That I don't like because if you're in your blind, you're in your tree stand cocking your crossbow, once you get to your tree stand, who wants to listen to that in the woods, right? You don't want to hear that in the woods. So that's an issue for me. I also am not a big fan of cranks, right? So that's just my thing. Here, they're not ashamed to draw weight, are they? You know, they're getting 450 on this guy. That is a blazing fast speed and 300-pound draw weight. Here, 340 going 400 feet per second in a tight little package like that. These are high-end crossbows, and Ravin kind of takes a beating from time to time. People criticize them because of the high draw weights, right? And because of what they've done. But I got to tell you, the folks that there's a lot of folks out there shooting Ravins that just love these crossbows, and I get it. I do. Here, what we see, however, two interesting things on this Ravin page that are worth further discussion. And that is, one, we have the new R50X, right? So this is probably a silent cranking system, what little I know about Ravins. But this XK7, no idea what that means, crossbow package. This shoots 50 feet per second. Okay, that's a joke. No, it actually shoots. This is another one. I think it's 505. Yep, bolt speed 505 feet per second. Weighs 8.4 pounds. A little bit on the heavier end. But we don't see the R500 on here, do we? That crossbow having been recalled, right? That was a big thing that I never really did a video on or talked about. And it was kind of just happened and it just went away and that was the end of it. But all those thousands and thousands of R500s that they had sold, just gone. That's kind of a big deal. It's kind of a weird thing, right? So that happened, right? That happened. But they've replaced it with this R50X. A real neat looking crossbow. There's a lot going on in here, okay? We're back to the TenPoint style 2 limb, you know, each side kind of thing, which, you know, Killer Instinct does the same thing. But if we look here, we do have, you know, the cables. This is a more, it doesn't have as many cables going through here as, I mean, it's got 1, 2. I think the TenPoints have 1, 2, 3, 4. This has 1, 2, which is, I'm just more, This looks more like what we're familiar with, doesn't it? A little bit. Cocked. Look at this, though. Now, we're not so much interested in the cocked width, right? That's another one of those truth in advertising things where I get a little miffed sometimes because they're talking about it being 3.6 inches wide, but this thing is way bigger than that. It's a foot wide, right? But that's still so small. It's still so amazing. But if you look at this, cocked, like it's cocking right into itself. Like the design here is really kind of amazing, but pretty neat stuff. This is a company, though. The other thing I will say about Ravin, okay, and because we don't talk about Ravin very much on here. I don't have one, I haven't shot a lot of them, but I have shot a few. But Ravin typically does get its crossbow speeds with a 400 grain arrow or better. It's not one of the companies that limits the speed of those arrows and dials it back, so you're not really shooting as fast. Now here we got some more Ravin. So apparently Ravin doing real well. They're selling a lot of stuff as far as this catalog is concerned. They've kept Bass Pro real happy, and Cabela's real happy, and that company is still selling their crossbows, and that's great. I want to show you, though, another positive thing I'll say about Ravin. This is brand new this year, 500 feet per second, 505. It's probably the second fastest crossbow on the market these days. That's amazing, good for Ravin, and that moves crossbow hunting forward. Again, not tried, true, and tested. Nope, it is not in that category. It is the latest and greatest, a category that I personally avoid. Very interested in it, though, because eventually this becomes the tried, true, and tested category. We're looking forward to see what down the road we'll have access to, and this is an example of that. But point out, however, Ravin, going back years and years, look at this crossbow, right? The R29X, 450 feet per second. The R26X, 400 feet per second. These aren't new crossbows. These are crossbows that Ravin put out years and years ago. They were the leader of the pack. Put these crossbows out, and they're still on the market today, still selling those crossbows. That's tried, true, and tested. These are crossbows that came out, and people loved them, and they still buy them, and they're still in the mix for modern speeds. That's amazing. They don't have to make a new model every year, right? They do. They're still moving forward. And we tend to focus on the R500 and say, oh, it's, they put out this crossbow, and what a disaster that was. But look how many different models they have that have been around a long time. This R10, the R10X, the silent cocking version, people still use this today and swear by it and tell you what a great crossbow it is and tell me I should own one, right? And this is like one of their old ones, right? 300-pound draw weight, 420 feet per second. It's probably received a little refinement here and there over the years. And I'm not so sure how my Burris Oracle X would work on this cantilever design. I never really liked the look of that, but if it works, it works. But if you could mount your scope on there, you'd have to get an elevated cheek rest and that sort of thing. But putting my Burris Oracle X on here, this is a crossbow that, and look at the price, right? These are mid-range. This is cheaper than a lot of the stuff out there. You go on an Excalibur website, a Scorpid website, you're gonna be, for their higher end stuff that's going to match this. Like, I don't know that Excalibur sells a 420 now. They might still have a 420. But if you have a crossbow that's in this range of performance from some other manufacturers, it's tough to get it for this price. This really isn't that bad. Okay, this is, for modern prices and stuff, right? But by the same token, you can go to Walmart and for $250, you can get one that shoots 400 feet per second. So it depends on what you want. But my point is, Ravin still selling these crossbows, still deserving of a page, 2 pages, 3 pages of space in this catalog. And look what, they still are selling. They're great models. These have been around a long, long time. They don't have the camo models shown. Isn't that interesting? So the black ones, and I like the black ones now. I'm actually more interested in the black ones than a lighter colored one, personally. That's where my mind is these days, and that could change, who knows. But these are, they're still holding the same price, still selling, and still, that's pretty cool. We got some CenterPoints here. Now we're getting into the more budget-friendly models, right? We got the 349 and 469, but we're shooting 425 feet per second with this CenterPoint crossbow, a more traditional design. If you look at it, the limbs coming out more horizontally, and when you will cock them in, it won't achieve the same narrowness of this. This one, uncocked, like we're looking at this crossbow uncocked. We're looking at this crossbow uncocked. And that's another thing I can say about Ravin. Wow, the pictures, I'll give hats off to Cabela's and Bass Pro here. These are uncocked pictures. And most of the time when we look on the manufacturer's websites, remember I complained about that? They're always showing you the cocked design. It's nice to see it uncocked, so you got a feel for what that crossbow really looks like almost all of the time, instead of when it's cocked. The cocked width isn't very important. It gives you, it's good to see it in a picture, but it's not, I mean, at some point you're going to pull that trigger and those limbs are coming out, and that's when damage occurs from the side of the blind or a tree next door or whatever. So it's kind of important to have these uncocked pictures. You can see here we're in a whole different category or class of width, however, from the Ravins with these CenterPoints, okay? But we're still 400 feet per second, 425 feet per second. For these prices, we live in the golden era of crossbow hunting, don't we? We have 10 pages of crossbows to choose from in this catalog alone. We have like as many crossbows in here for sale to choose from as we do compound bows. How cool is that? This is crossbow equality. This is the market telling us that crossbows have caught up, right? If you look at state by state by state, half the states have pretty much full crossbow eligibility. That's pretty cool. And it is shown in these beautiful crossbows in these beautiful pages. Look at these crossbows. Now here we're on the Barnett, another company that send it. Oh, that's cool. Here we're on a company too, and they get the big bucks, right? Barnett gets the big bucks. Look at these crossbows. Do you see any big bucks here? Nope. No big bucks. Nope. You don't even know what are you going to use these for? We don't even know. There isn't a big buck anywhere. None to be seen, right? We got a big buck in the logo, but here we go to Barnett and kaboom, we got a big buck. This is a buck that I will never see in my lifetime, a buck that big. But look at that monster. That's great. If we look at this now, we have, again, Barnett, well known for their budget-friendly models. They're in that, really in that mix. 200 pounds, 214-pound draw weight. But they're shooting 410. 410, I'm not sure of the arrow weights or anything like that. Got to look into that stuff. They don't really give you that in this catalog. But Barnett is a company that has been around a long time, offering 2 new models here. What I would look at with Barnett is whether they're micro diameter arrows. I'm not a big fan of that stuff, so that's a thing. Nocks, I'm not familiar with what Nocks they use. I really don't spend a lot of time with Barnetts, but I got to tell you, a lot of friends of Bunjie shooting Barnett crossbows. I mean, this is a company that has supported, they pretty much just make crossbows and has been very instrumental in getting crossbows out there and building that reputation over decades and decades of making them, right? So my hat goes off to that company. Killer Instinct, probably my current favorite brand, I guess, if I had to pick a brand. Not sponsored by anybody, still not sponsored. But it's important to know that Killer Instinct, here we are, they have 2, the Vital X430 Elite for $5.99. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking for a crossbow that performs in the modern era, almost in the top end of the modern era of tried, true, and tested, that is. Now, it's not the R500 or the 505 or anything like that, or the 515, but 430 feet per second. We've seen this crossbow in person at our crossbow gathering this summer, the video on that. Very impressed with this crossbow. This picture does not show how long it is, but the stock is adjustable, and the balance is nice despite its length. It's long because it has to get the extra draw length there, the extra power stroke to impart more energy on the arrow to get up to that 430. But this is a really nice, sweet crossbow at 195 pound draw weight and $600, right? You look around, I don't know that I would buy a crossbow out of this catalog, to be honest with you, but go to Wyvern Creations. I don't think they have this model on there. They may start carrying that now. I don't know. You can get the X1 off there, the SWAT X1. But there are places where you can buy this with coupon codes, and you might be able to do a little bit better than that. I haven't looked for one, but that's the thing. It does, this is a company that's getting that speed with like a 390 or maybe even a 370 arrow. So you're not probably going to get that with a 450, but you're going to get, you might get close to 400 feet per second with a 450 grain arrow out of this.
411.
With a 390. And if you're in that mix, wow, you can just do anything you want with a crossbow at that speed with that weight of arrow. That's a really nice setup. If you're looking for a more budget-friendly model, I got to tell you, Killer Instinct has your back. go look at their website because they've got 16 models on there, and they all shoot in the mix of 400 feet per second, right? Between 400, they all shoot between like 390 and 430. So, but for $200, right here, you got a 400 feet per second crossbow, draw weight 200 pounds, right? And it's going to do everything you want to do, right? You can just do that. You can use this scope even. It's fine. I don't really like the Killer Instinct scopes because I don't understand them. It's not a criticism of the scope so much as I'm not familiar with it. But you can't know everything, right? You can't know everything. But these are crossbows to look at, that's for sure. That concludes that. Oh, look at this beautiful scope. What's this? We should look into this further. Anyway, but I do love those scopes. I do think that's probably the future of crossbow hunting. I'm not even going to say probably. You will see these. In 10 years, you're going to see this on pretty much every crossbow out there. We'll come back and see if that's true. Maybe I will do a video where I say that I am wrong, and that's the end of that. I don't know. Huh. Well, that's interesting. Did you notice that in our Bass Pro Shops in Cabela's magazine, we saw no Excalibur. We saw no Scorpid, which isn't too surprising, I guess. A little surprising about the Excalibur. And the SWAT X1 didn't make the catalog, but there is some Killer Instinct. Kind of interesting that 2 of the 3 Death by Bungie brands that I've used over the years, I'm not sponsored by anybody, but 2 of the brands that I'm familiar with aren't even in the catalog, didn't make the catalog. How interesting is that? I don't know. Give me your thoughts on that. Until next time, all hail Bungie.